Yeah, you're so cute. You're such a cutie.
I sure wish she would have had this level of spunk for our session today. It's not often Peachy wastes this much energy. A few days ago, though, the weather was still fairly cool during the day and chilly at night, so she was feeling a little more lively than usual. For the most part, Peachy is basically my energetic equivalent. We actually have a lot in common. We're both short and stocky, low energy, calm, quiet, very food motivated, and we're both redheads. Peachy's calm and reliable nature is one of the things I adore most about this pony. She is incredibly steady and about as close to bomb-proof as you can get, though that's a term I usually avoid using for prey animals. Horses are naturally sensitive and aware of their surroundings, and I think it's important to respect that rather than pretend they're machines that never react to anything. Still, Peachy has a very grounded personality. She's thoughtful rather than reactive, and I really appreciate that about her. While no horse is conformationally perfect, overall she is a pretty well put together pony. She's sound, hardy, and hasn't taken a lame step since she's been in my care. She's the kind of horse that doesn't ask for much. She's uncomplicated in a lot of ways, and I never take that for granted because horses like that are truly special. While I'm a firm believer in groundwork before saddling and riding, Peachy is such a laid-back girl that I'm comfortably skipping it before today's ride. Here I'm checking the saddle fit. At rest and without the weight of a rider, the regular panels seemed fine, but the other day when I went to mount, I noticed the front of the saddle dropped slightly and threw off my balance. So this time I added a thin shim to the front panels to help level everything out while still keeping the panels spaced at the widest setting. I know some people disagree with this, but I personally don't mind if a horse wants to look at the saddle pad or saddle before I place it on their back. I've never understood why someone would object to that. Horses are sentient beings, and it's their body we're placing this equipment on. Sometimes people act as though allowing a horse to pause and process something means they're being disrespectful or dominant, but I don't see it that way at all. Curiosity and thoughtfulness are not bad traits. If anything, I'd rather have a horse that thinks than one that completely shuts down mentally. So far, this has been the best fit I've found for her, and I really appreciate how adjustable this Schlese Devon trail saddle is. It gives me the ability to make smaller adjustments as her body changes through the seasons, which is especially important with round-bodied ponies like Peachy. Initially, I only tightened the cinch enough to keep the saddle from sliding. Then, as I continue tacking up and moving her around, I gradually tighten it another 2 to 4 times. I prefer doing it incrementally rather than all at once because I think it's more comfortable for the horse. Some horses are very sensitive about being girthed up, and while Peachy is generally pretty tolerant, I still try to approach it thoughtfully. Little things like that can make a huge difference in how a horse feels about being ridden over time. I was able to find another bit to try for Peachy when I went to the Midwest Horse Fair, so today I'm going to see how she feels about it. I previously had this bridle fitted to Boone, so here I'm adjusting it to Peachy's little petite face and fine-tuning everything once it's on. I'm not going to actually use the bit for riding today, which is why I still have the halter and lead rope underneath the bridle. I won't use the bit under saddle until she's fully acclimated to it and relaxed with the feeling of it. I'm in no rush. Peachy can be a little fussy about anything involving her mouth. I'm not entirely sure what caused that in her past, but I suspect it had something to do with deworming. She has a very strong sense of taste and will do the flamin' response almost every time I give her a treat. If something tastes unusual or sweet to her, she reacts immediately. From my experience administering oral medications to her, I know she absolutely despises the taste of dewormer and Banamine. And you'll notice later that she reacts similarly to the copper and sweet iron mouthpiece on this bit. Because of that sensitivity, I'm always extra gentle and polite when bridling her. Here I'm just introducing the bit to her, gauging her reaction, and then removing it when she offers the response I'm looking for. I repeat this process every time before fully bridling her, and it has noticeably improved how she feels about the experience overall. I think horses learn very quickly when they feel heard. Once she's fully bridled, you can see she's still trying to sort through the sensation of everything. I do want to emphasize that she is not in pain. All 3 horses had spring examinations just a few weeks ago, and I know discomfort is always a very valid concern when people see behaviors involving the mouth or head. I completely understand people wanting to advocate for horses, and I think that concern comes from a good place most of the time. And lastly, I do prefer to adjust my bit just so it simply rests against the corners of their mouth without creating wrinkles. And here I'm just checking the cinch one last time before we continue with our somewhat kind of groundwork pre-ride check. As you can see, her energy level today is about a 0. This is really the first truly hot day we've had. And just like people, some horses adjust to weather changes better than others. I think people sometimes forget just how much weather impacts horses physically. A sudden temperature jump can make even a normally energetic horse feel sluggish and heavy. And Peachy already tends to operate at a fairly relaxed pace to begin with. While I had certain expectations in my mind for what I wanted us to accomplish today, one thing horses have taught me over the last 2 decades is the importance of flexibility and improvisation. Horses don't care about the plans we create in our heads. They live very much in the present moment, and sometimes working with them means learning to let go of the rigid picture you imagined beforehand. I am trying to gently encourage a little forward movement from her on the ground. As you can see, she's really blasting off like a rocket here. Clearly, I'm struggling to keep up. I know there are trainers who would really pressure a horse in this situation to force more energetic movement, but I don't really see the point in escalating things when the horse is calm, safe, and simply low energy. To me, there's a big difference between laziness and physical or mental fatigue. Before mounting, I'm practicing some lateral flexion both with the bit and the halter. If she gets a little stuck when I ask for flexion through the bit, I will use the lead rope to help clarify the cue through the halter instead. I always want to make the answer easy for the horse to find whenever possible. She's standing very quietly at the mounting block, so I decide to swing a leg over. You'll notice I mount a little awkwardly here. Since she has very little wither and a very round barrel, even well-fitting saddles tend to roll slightly from side to side. That's why I grab the opposite side of the cantle while mounting. It helps stabilize the saddle and keeps everything centered while I get on. It's also why I use a breast collar, even though we aren't riding steep terrain. It helps minimize some of that side-to-side movement, especially on round horses like her. And from here, we're simply working on our walk forward cue. I'm asking as lightly as possible, and I am genuinely happy if she just takes one step. I don't particularly care which direction she chooses either. At this stage, I'm far more interested in softness, relaxation, and willingness rather than precision. If she gets a little stuck, I'll use some lateral movement to help encourage her forward again. I've also removed the reins from the bit and am only using the halter and lead rope. Now, I am by no means a professional rider. I'm just a humble horse owner doing the best I can for and with my horses. I know I'm not the best rider either, but I'm also not asking my horses for top-level performance. I don't compete. I don't show. My horses are my friends and family, and I'm out here simply to enjoy time with them. For me, it's not about perfection or judgment. It's about growth, partnership, trust, and connection. And maybe there's something beautiful about allowing things to stay simple. Not every ride needs to be impressive. Not every session needs to produce dramatic progress. Sometimes quiet moments matter just as much. Sometimes the goal is simply to spend time together and leave the interaction feeling better than when you started. I think the horse world could use a lot more softness. A lot less ego, a lot less pressure, a little less obsession with performance and control, and maybe a lot more listening. I hope you were able to relate to this in some way, and if this very ordinary, unpolished little session with my pony was able to inspire or teach anything at all, then I'm genuinely humbled by that. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.